Yeah, that's a big question. Part of it is, of course, we don't want to see this. Part of it is fooling ourselves because not admitting the problem, not seeing the truth is easier. I call it the ostrich effect. Like we put our head in the sand because it's too painful. But that's too easy because just putting this at the individual person is too easy because I think it happens especially in organizations, even more so than when we do privately. And then the question is, why is that? And I think that's because we have created organizations where this has become rational. It's rewarded, and you're kind of punished if you're honest and signaling the fire, because then you're the person with the bad message. And it's especially like vertically bad information traveling upwards is challenging in many organizations for many reasons. So short answer is we have created systems, organizations where denying the fire has become the rational thing.
All right, welcome everybody back to the Sean Trey Show. I'm your host, Sean, and I have an awesome guest with me today. Can you tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Yes, of course. Jeroen Kraaijenbrink. That's how you pronounce my name. I always get that question. I'm a, yeah, how do I call myself? Strategy and change expert. At least most of my
Nice.
career I spent on strategy, first in academia, then in as consultant, and currently focusing much more on culture, change, behavior, mindset, and
Mm,
especially like getting organizations more honest. But I'm thinking we will be talking a lot about that today.
definitely. And honesty is a good thing. I have a little last Christmas, my team members, my workers bought me this snow globe. But it's a snow globe with the house on fire, and you shake it up and it has little fire things, and across it says, "I'm fine. Everything is fine." And I love it because I would always send that to my team, that little picture of like the kid sitting in the fire going, everything's fine. And I see so many people that do that every day. And I wanted to ask you this. My big question is, why do so many leaders, people pretend everything is fine, even when things are clearly falling apart underneath?
Yeah, that's a big question. Part of it is, of course, we don't want to see this. Part of it is fooling ourselves because not admitting the problem, not seeing the truth is easier. I call it the ostrich effect. Like we put our
Hmm.
head in the sand because it's too painful. But that's too easy because just putting this at the individual person is too easy because I think it happens especially in organizations, even more so
Yeah.
than when we do privately. And then the question is, why is that? And I think that's because we have created organizations where this has become rational. It's rewarded, and you're kind of punished if you're honest and signaling the fire, because then you're the person with the bad message. And it's especially like vertically bad information traveling upwards is challenging in many organizations for many reasons. So short answer is we have created systems, organizations where denying the fire has become the rational thing.
Hmm. It's interesting too because I'm going to tell you a secret right now. Um, Tonight, I'm not okay. I'm having a horrible, horrible allergy. I am super allergic to poison oak and poison ivy. It's these plants that are in around the world. They're not fun.
Mhm.
And living in Vietnam, I haven't had to deal with that at all, which is wonderful. Many years of not having any allergies. I did not know that cashews are a similar plant and similar plant family. And
Mm.
I ate cashews for a year without any problem, but I didn't realize that I was eating the cashews without the skin on them, and they had been boiled and had the skin removed. And one day I was really hungry and I went by the store and I was like, oh, cashews. And I bought them and they had the skin on them. And I ate the whole box. Now, what happened is I ingested all of those toxins that then began to work their way out through my skin as I sweat. And let's just say over about 70% of my body right now, I have these itchy rashes, and it's
Mhm.
from the chemical urushiol. And needless to say, today at work, I was sitting there and one of my team members looked at me and she says, "Are you okay?" And for a second, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm
Of course,
okay.
of course.
Of course I'm okay." And then a second later, I turned to her and I was like, "You know what? I'm not okay." And she's like, "Well, what can you do about that?" And I was like, "You know what? That's a great question." Because as I kept telling myself that I was okay, I wasn't looking for solutions to my problem. I just was sitting there trying to sit in it, right? And I was okay, it's okay, it's okay. But the second that I was like able to say, "Yeah, things are not right," my mindset shifted to, well, what's the solution
Mhm.
for the problem that we're having? And I think that that's something that we need to train ourselves to do more, you know?
Yeah, for that reason, because when once you admit, you can look for the truth. But the other reason is not saying it out loud or not admitting it kind of eats you from inside. It
Yeah,
builds up
literally.
tension, frustrations because you are performing, you're acting, you're not
Yeah.
real, you're not yourself. And that, I think, when we do that year after year, decade after decade, it builds up such tension that that's, I think, why you see so many, so much stress, burnouts, and all of that.
Hmm.
Of course, there's one reason is kind of pressure, is we have to work hard and there's KPIs and deadlines and so on.
Right.
But I think the other reason is we have to pretend, we have to show up, we have to be strong, we have to be someone that we're not.
Right. Right. I think that that's an interesting thing that we all are required to be someone that we're not. And, and whether it be, I had this guest come on recently, and he was talking about how he was a business consultant for a major AI firm, one of the ones that we all hear about. And he says that he
Mhm.
was in a meeting with that CEO, and the CEO said, I need everyone out of the room. And the guy started walking out of the room. He's like, "No, you stay." And the guy, he's like, "Oh, okay." And he stayed in the room, and the guy looked at me. He's like, "I'm a fraud." And what? Like fraudulent product? And he's like, "No, no. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and I'm overwhelmed. I have massive imposter syndrome. Like here I am running this huge company, and everyone's looking at me going, 'What's the next move they're going to make?'" And he's like, "I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know what the next move is that we're
exactly.
going to make." You know?
Exactly, exactly. And that's why I think the honesty problem is it's kind of exponentially uh, getting worse when we're moving up the hierarchy in an organization, because the higher you're in the hierarchy, and especially the bigger the company, the more we have created this kind of myth that that's the know-it-all person, the strong
Right.
person. And of
Right.
course, part of it, yeah, you have the responsibility, so it comes with kind of a heavy responsibility because you're responsible for many people and their families and so on.
Yeah.
But you're a human being like everyone else, and CEO, being a CEO does not give you any superpowers, and you
Mm-mm.
don't have any superpowers when you become a CEO. You're good at some job, but you're still like 99% like everyone else. So you have your anxieties, you have your uncertainties, you have your stress, and I think that's making that acceptable, normal. I think, yeah, the other people had to leave the room, right? So
Yeah.
it had to be a secret,
Right.
and that's, yeah. And the interesting thing is, um, we have created this, or this, not on purpose, I think, but quite, yeah, quite substantial, quite systematically over the years. But it's not good for people. It's not good for organizations.
Yeah.
So then you can, and when you really yeah, dig into it like I've done, and think about it, it really becomes amazing. Like, why are we doing this? Who is this
Yeah.
for? It's not good for anyone. Um, but we can't get out of it because it has become kind of the norm. It's a systemic thing. It's not just, we can't just replace the leader. That's an important thing, of course. The leader at the top has the most impact on this. But the solution is not replacing the leader, because if the system works in a way, the industry works in a way, it's just the way things are done, and that's a big a big thing.
Hmm.
But that's the work I'm trying to do, is get some improvements there, and even though that's of course slow, I think it's crucial,
Yeah.
because we see the problems everywhere, and I think increasingly. And yeah, so that's also why I moved from initially I did mostly strategy work, so helping companies develop strategy, implement strategy, then moved more to change, and then kind of reflecting on my own work, being honest with myself and thinking, what am I doing? Am I really
Hmm.
helping those companies? Kind of. I wouldn't downplay my work. I think I've done a good job as a strategy consultant, helping companies. But have I really addressed the most important problems? Probably not. And
Hmm.
that's what I focus on now, is kind of getting more honesty within organizations. Where honesty, and I think that's important to emphasize, it does not mean the absence of lying.
Mm.
That's just kind of the very surface of it. Honesty means being authentic, being your true self, and I mean true with a small t, because we're all kind of completely socially constructed. But being true to yourself, it it also means being dependable, showing compassion, showing empathy. So it's a very rich concept, and I think that's the part we have kind of systematically been removing in organizations through the way we manage it, and even by the very fact that we kind of split between work and private.
Yeah.
Which also, if you think about that, it's odd. It's not normal, because if you look at the history of people, uh, this is kind of a recent invention where work and private was kind of separated since the kind of the industrial revolution, mainly. Work was another place, so you went there, and over the last century, we have kind of completely split between the two. While for hundred thousands of years, and for any other species, work is life, life is work, and somehow we have created that tension where we are one person at home, we're the other person at work, uh, and I think my hypothesis is the bigger the tension between those, the bigger the gap, the more
Mm.
problems you have, because it's very hard to sustain, to play a very different role. And of course, I'm not too naive here. It's that you can be everywhere, you can be truly just yourself, whoever that is. But the
Hmm.
tension and the difference, I think, has become far too large to be healthy. Again, healthy for the people and healthy for organizations.
It's interesting too because one of the things that you pointed out there that I really am interested in is honesty. You talk a lot about honesty,
Yes.
especially honesty inside organizations. It was interesting. I was hiring for an executive assistant. I finally found my current executive assistant who is absolutely amazing. And it was a long journey to find her. But when I went to hire, there was an interesting phenomenon that happened. I set up 8 interviews, 8. And all of them, and this is after screening a bunch of people online,
Mhm.
preliminary, like tell me, show me your CV. And we had 8 people planned to come in for interviews. And 6 of them told me they were in the hospital the day of their interview. And 6 of them used it, 6 used the hospital, and people were sending photos, sending this and that. And I was like, that's 6 people were, and I said, and I turned and I was like thinking about it. And I was like, there were 6 people who realized this was not a job they wanted. It was that simple.
Mhm.
But yet
Mhm.
they did not know how to say, this isn't what I want. Like, and make it very simple and clear and just no. If someone tells me that, I go, okay, I'm glad that you realize that. I'm glad that we can see that
Of course, just
clearly.
tell me.
Just tell me. But you talk about this honesty. Why is telling the truth at work so hard for people?
Because we've made it so hard.
Right.
Yeah, and as I said in the beginning, we it has become rational not to be honest, because I think part of it is kind of we suspect other people to talk badly about us or to laugh
Yeah.
about us. So it's probably just kind of the social anxiety that we have. But part of it is also actually evidence that you'd rather not be honest. Like I
Yeah.
think many people recognize that they have signaled some problem at some point in their career, and then either it got ignored or they got punished for it.
Yeah.
They got kind of, because they were kind of the messenger with the bad news,
Yeah.
and this was not appreciated because someone else felt threatened personally. They took it personally. So, and but also that I think it's not any specific person in an organization or their bad character. It's just they grew up in that same organization where it has become, yeah, very very difficult to be transparent, to be honest,
Yeah.
to be yourself. And part of it is also um, kind of removing variety, heterogeneity, differences. We look for similarity, similar people like us. We hire people that are like us, and that makes it
Mhm.
very hard to stand out. What I found, and this is of course very very old, but if you look at the origin of McKinsey, um, and kind of what they wanted was basically young men wearing a black suit and a black hat. For the rest, like robots, they were trained in the same method, and they should be completely replaceable. They were just like part of a machine. So
Yeah.
part of it is the metaphor we're using for organizations is as a machine where every part should be replaceable. There's a function, there's a role. You are that function, you are that role, and for the rest, who you are, what you bring in, what your character is, what your taste is, that's kind of forgotten, ignored, or kind of, yeah, squeezed out of you, or not
Right.
allowed because you have. And of course I'm exaggerating a bit here because there's organizations where you can truly much more be yourself and be different. But I think that those are also more of the organizations that do pretty well, even though there
Mhm.
that part can be acceptable or appreciated. But still, telling some people higher up the truth could still be very difficult there. So there's different aspects of being honest, which I've kind of summarized in a simple framework with the acronym PACE: purpose, awareness, connection, and energy. And for me, those are the conditions for honesty. Like if you are, so part of it starts with, and interrupt me if I'm giving too long answers,
No, no. I'm
Sean.
I'm I'm soaking this up. This is awesome.
Yeah. So, because purpose is, of course, there's a lot of talk about purpose, about missions, visions in the past, and then to the why and the golden circle, and purpose and all of that. But a large part of that is pretty much a fiction because it's kind of a tick box where, okay, we need a purpose, so we write a purpose, we have a mission statement, we put it on our website, but it's not real.
Mm.
If you want people to be honest, the first thing you want is actual purpose, where what people care about matches what the organization cares about.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, you require often a little bit of courage, sometimes a lot of courage. And the only place where you, or the only reason to show that courage is that you really care about an organization. So that's the purpose part.
Mhm.
The awareness part is to be truthful, to be honest. You actually have to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
And that starts with self awareness. There's so many people that I see that show little self awareness.
Mhm.
They have, and increasingly so. There's so much kind of bubbles, biases, and blind spots where people kind of have a narrow-minded view where they think they're right and everyone else is wrong, and you get the polarization and the camps and the conflicts and all of that, not just online but in the real world as well. So awareness means being aware of your own limitations, your weak points, also being aware of the other. So you need to be aware of what's going on in the world, because how can you be honest and truthful if you have no clue? So that's
Mhm.
awareness.
Right.
Connection means, so this is becoming a little bit of a lecture.
Hmm.
Connection means you have to be connected to other people, because if you don't trust them, how can you be honest? And I think this is
Right.
also we see that. So that's in organizations. If we want to kind of split it into horizontal and vertical, horizontal, we often have silos where, by design, where each department has their own kind of little kingdom, and there's little communication in between, little connection in between. but vertically especially. Like, is there dialogue? Is there trust? So how do you establish true connection, true relationships? Because when there's a true relationship, it's so much easier to um, for, let's say, the truth to travel, especially bad news. Like if the two of us, if we don't trust each other, it's very hard for me to give you candid feedback. And the
Right.
same way, it's the same way. So how can I be honest with you if I don't trust you? If I kind of suspect that you will be doing something harmful with the information I'm giving you. So that's connection, and the last one is energy, which basically means your physical and mental health. Is
Mm,
how, if you're literally in the hospital, or if you're feeling bad, if you have severe overweight, physical problems, mental problems, stress, how can you show up honestly at work? You can't, because you're hiding that, you're struggling with it. Um, so those are kind of four basic conditions, for think for honesty, and also for flourishing organizations. So that's what my work is very much about. Like, how do we create organizations where pace, where purpose, awareness, connection, and energy is kind of the norm, the default, rather than the exception. And that starts typically with top leadership. Like,
yeah.
how are they doing on these four aspects?
Right. It's interesting too, because if you don't have a the culture being set by whoever, the top
Mhm.
leadership, by if you don't have it set by people that you want setting it, it's still going to get set, but it might not be what you want, you
Of
know.
course.
And I I was a children's teacher for many years, and I recognized this last year. My daughter's school, uh, her classes had a lot of problems, like a lot of problems. And it
Mhm.
was interesting because there was something that I was like talking to my wife about. And I said, her class has a fundamental problem. And I said, and she's like, well, what is that? I said, the teacher's not setting the culture. And the culture is being created by the kids right now. And she's like, well, what do you
Mhm.
mean? And I said, because um, I don't know what it was going on, but there was one young boy who was acting out very badly, very in the beginning of the year, who was hitting, and there was a lot of physical intimidation toward the other kids.
Mhm.
And the teacher didn't do anything about it. It was like, let's tell him not to do that.
Mhm.
And it continued. And then finally, the other kids were like, she's not going to protect us. We're going to take it
Yeah.
into our own hands. And there was suddenly, because they didn't feel safe, and they created a culture that they felt safe. And what that was is that they banded together and started bullying the kid really
Mhm.
aggressively. And it was not good. And it was just
Yeah.
this spiral. And I looked at my wife and I said, how many companies are like this as well? That there is something that happens and people don't have the clarity. And then that's where, coming from my daughter then asked me, Dad, well, what can we do? And I said, well, I said, and I was like, that's a great question. And like, it led me to think about this question that I wanted to ask you. Like, what makes someone a real leader? What would you tell them
In this particular case, I wouldn't directly know, but in general, I think it's
in general? Yeah.
really, really kind of listen to your heart, and be honest. I think that's, and care about the people around you. And I think in that's when you're a teacher in front of a class or a CEO of a large corporate. I think that's what this is all about. You show up as you, and care about the people. And if those are in place, and it can again kind of refer to the framework, but live your purpose, develop your awareness, connect to people, and make sure you bring energy into the room. And then
Hmm.
it doesn't really matter what exactly you're doing. I think then when you're bringing yourself as as an authentic, strong presence, it will work.
Hmm.
People respond to that. They see it. They love to be connected and listen to people like that.
Right.
You could call that charismatic leadership, but that's kind of too, making it too magical, and for just the lucky few, and as if you're born as being a charismatic leader. This is something you can learn.
Yeah.
You can work on that. as a teacher, as a CEO, as a team leader, as a middle manager. So it's a very, in essence, a very simple thing. It's be you, know yourself, and actually care about the people, try to help them, because that's what you do as a leader, is to kind of look at the people you're leading and try to help them in a way that they can flourish, that they can do the work they should be doing, that they can develop, that they can grow, that they can be honest, that they can share things, that they can connect. So be a good be a good person. That's kind of the very oversimplified answer to your question.
Be a good person. I I think it's not oversimplified though. It is the most essential, beautiful answer you can have. At the end of the day, to be a great leader, you have to be a human being that people want to be led by. You have to
Yeah.
be someone that they're willing to follow. I When I was younger, my dad was the type who showed me how to lead from the front. Who that if there was someone who had a problem, he would offer his shirt, he would offer his shoes, you know, he
Mhm.
would go barefoot if he had to, so that someone around him would be okay. And I try to bring that into what I do. And recently, I had one of my workers tell me, he turned to me and he said, "Mr. Sean, I think you are a genuinely good human being." And I was like, I hope that's a
That's the
good
biggest
thing.
compliment you can
I
get,
was
right?
like, I hope that's a good thing, man. And he's like, you every day you try to do this and like you care about us. You care about our I do a lot of video content for people and I recently fired a client and people said, why would you do that? Uh because they mistreated my staff. They mistreated my
Mhm.
team. They were calling, they were swearing, they were belittling. And I was like, it's funny because I live in Vietnam and I have a team that's mainly Vietnamese, and they just go, "Oh well, they can other people, right?"
Mhm.
The young woman who was the editor working on that project, is about ready to begin her master's degree in London next year on feminism and colonial studies. She's hands
Mhm.
down one of the smartest people I know. She just happens to have worked with me before, and for the time being, wants to learn a little bit about how to make visual content. That's it.
Mhm.
Yet she is an absolute masterclass of amazingness and awesomeness all rolled up
Mhm.
into one human being who wants to make a huge impact. And when I had people that were mistreating her, I said, I don't want you anywhere near my team and
No,
my people.
unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Because for me, that is a person who is I am blessed to have that person join me and my team for a period of time. And I think that if that's what you call being a good human, then count me in. Count me in.
Yeah, definitely, and that means, I think this is a great example, because what your client did was not showing respect,
Yeah.
and reducing someone to a role or a position or a function,
Yeah.
or a robot
Right?
who has to deliver something. And I think this is where you see the best signals in an organization. Like, how do people treat uh, others in the lower ranks? Because it's
Right?
easy to pretend respect to people above you, but the real respect is a human thing. It should not relate to whatever people's job is. So it's, how do you treat uh, the person at the reception? How do you
Yes.
treat the concierge? How do you treat anyone? That's the good test. Like, if you're a good leader, if you're a good CEO, you treat everyone in your company well. And yeah, so again, it's almost too simple to say out aloud. But it's amazing that this is not the default in
Right?
many cultures, because I've seen so
Mm.
many leaders, and not just at the top, but maybe even especially kind of one level down,
Yeah.
where kind of being, what is it, disrespectful to others is kind of the norm, and talking about other people. Like, I'm currently in a fascinating. I'm actually not certain whether I'm still with that company as a client because they kind of fired me because I was, as you know, I pay a lot of attention to truth. So when you work with me,
Right?
be aware the truth get on the table, and
I love it.
very often that has something to do with the leaders at the top. So if you're open to that, then that's the kind of work I do. But this leader was so far into his kind of defensive ego castle
Mm,
that when I came up with a very clear diagnosis, I talked to 25, 30 people in his organization with a very clear single conclusion is that you're a problem.
mm,
So, and that person, I think it was a pretty extreme example. He became very aggressive with me for kind of calling me all kind of bad things. But the point is, that person was not at all respectful for other people. Very much based on position, on let's say playing the CEO role, and trying to suck up with the owner, trying to kind of downplay, divide and conquer, keep information away from people. Promised them one thing in a one-on-one and then completely forgot in another meeting. And I've even noticed that myself a couple of times. Then we talked about something, we agreed on something, and then somehow it was completely forgotten,
mhm.
erased, kind of. And then you start kind of thinking like, am I crazy?
Right.
Is this me? Did I really kind of make this up? No, but I'm quite sure. I'm sure I did not make it up. So that's, I think it shows, yeah, being respectful, being caring about other people, helping them once more with purpose, awareness, connection, energy. I think if that's what you can do as a leader, you're creating great cultures, and then it doesn't matter. I think what the product is, what the company is, what the industry is, even what the country and the culture is. I think that's a pretty universal thing we need and we want as people. And you work in Vietnam, so it's a very different culture than Europe, than the US. But this is universal.
Mhm.
People work harder and are motivated and are more honest if there's a clear purpose. If they are aware, if they kind of know themselves, if they are aware of the needs and of other people, they will do better. If there's strong relationships, they will do better. And if they bring energy into the room and are healthy, they will do better. So this is this kind of universal conditions.
Mhm. It's so interesting too because one of the things that I remember a story a while back. I was in working in Hollywood, and there
Hmm.
was this salon that I worked at as a hair salon, and the this one lady came in and she looked like a bum. She had beat up pants, blue jeans, and a beat up shirt, and all of the um, all of the work, the stylists and the hairstylists, and this was a very posh place, very high end. And like, I was like, hey, because I was working the reception at that time, and I was like, anybody want to work on this lady? She seems like a lovely, nice human being who needs to get her hair done. And no one, no, no, I'm busy. I'm busy. And like, you're standing there just doing nothing. What do you mean you're busy? Well,
Hmm.
I have more going on right now that I need to take care of. They weren't. They just didn't think that she was worth their time.
Hmm.
There was this guy, Craig, and I said, Craig, are you able to, or willing to work on this person? He was like, sure, bring him over. Craig was probably one of the nicest, most genuine people I met especially that worked there. Worked on her. She needed a full cleanup. She got all done up. And then she walked in and she pulled out this business suit that she had carried with her. No one saw it.
Hmm.
And my boss came running in. She's like, Sean, did you take care of her? I said, yeah, I got her in with Craig. And she's like, oh my goodness, she's like one of the studio heads here in Los Angeles. And I was like, and I was just like, oh wow, well yeah, she came in. She said she just flew in and needed someone to help her out. And I said, and no one wanted to help her. And she was like, well, who helped her? I said, Craig. She's like, thank goodness. And she kept coming back. She was a regular after that.
Hmm.
But no one was willing. It was like that undercover boss type of a thing. Everyone was like
Yep.
looking at her and said, well, it's not worth my time. And I think that what's interesting is the person who truly was successful was the person who was like willing to take it no matter what. You know,
Yep. Again, another example of showing respect to people irrespective of position, because there were all kinds of prejudice that this woman was kind of unacceptable, or I don't know. We have so much prejudice there. I think that's the awareness part. Is kind of be open,
Right.
and don't assume things. Be aware of your own biases in this case. Like the bias here was she's looking looking in a certain way, so not worth our attention. Which, yeah, it's if you think about it, of course it's on one hand it's a natural thing. We always kind of categorize other people, and there's us and them, and that's kind of a, but it's not a good thing. And I think in organizations, yeah, we can work on that. We can reduce that. We can improve that.
Right. I want to ask you a question because why do some leaders look successful on the outside but feel exhausted or empty on the inside?
Yeah, it's once more it's the performance we ask for, and that
Yeah.
performance I find it a beautiful word because it's there's so much emphasis on performance, like key performance indicators and so on. But
Right.
performance also is, you're talking about Hollywood, it's kind of acting, it's performing as if, pretending. And I think that's what part of it is because our measure of success is off. Because
Hmm.
what is successful? Having a lot of money, being able to spend, that's kind of the shortest summary of being successful nowadays, right? Earning a lot
Right.
of money, having a lot of power, uh, um, which is also, if you think about that, why is that a measure of success? So it's the label of what we call successful is completely off. Therefore, for
Yeah.
me, successful means is someone flourishing.
Mm,
It's a bit vaguer as a term than how much money do you make and how many cars do you have? What's
right.
the size of your house? How many pools do you have, and so on, and how many diamonds? Uh, but that's what life is about. It's about flourishing. Literally, what life is about. If you look in nature, if you look at what when are you successful? If you're kind of thrilled, if you're energized, if you are happy, that should be successful. So I think it's the measure of success that's the problem here. And because that's the measure of success, that's what leaders are focusing on, because that's the social norm, the societal norm, it's the business norm. Uh, and of course, you're exhausted. Of course, you're
Hmm.
empty because no one really cares about that. Because it's not part of uh, part of life. Of course, it's a condition, and of course, the other side having no money, being completely powerless. That's a problem. But it's a hygiene condition. Like to a certain level, when you have enough to have your house, have your food, have your clothes, and so on, then it's enough. And above and beyond, it's about once more these four. Are you living your purpose?
Yes.
Are you kind of aware, kind of being also kind of how are you doing on the spiritual side? How are you
Yeah.
doing mentally? How are you doing in your social relationships? How are you doing
Yes.
energetically, physically? So the measure of success is completely off. Where it's I think not more than logical that we are exhausted and empty because it's an exhausting and an empty measure of success.
Yes. One of the things that I look at is that I have a podcast on personal finance called Growing Money with Sean Trace. And
Hmm.
the podcast is not how to get rich. The podcast is how to grow your resources and know when enough is enough and what your enough is, because it's like at the end of the
Hmm.
day, you can chase more. The worst thing, the most annoying thing for me in the world is when I do a video edit for a client and they come back and they say, I want more. I was like, well, more what? I want more. I want it to be better. Better? Like,
How?
where do we go with that? Like, how? What exactly? Well, I like this whoosh whoosh sound. Okay, now we can do whoosh sounds. That's easy. Well, I want my voice sounds a little funny. Okay, well, you recorded with a bad microphone, but we can throw it through some different like processes to clean that up a little bit. Yep, there we go. Oh, that's it. Okay, well, those were quantifiable things. And then now are you happy? Totally happy. There's their enough. Now, they're not going up here because they don't need to hit up here. And I think that for everyone, you have to know what your enough is. I don't want to
Hmm.
be Elon Musk. I think that, that level of drive and singular focus would make me go crazy. And I
Same
want to have
here.
enough
Yeah.
that I could go upstairs every single night and watch movies with my daughter. That 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 is my long-term goal, that I can go and just have movie time all the time and have
Of
fun
course,
with
that's
that,
what life is about, right?
right? And what do you think, for people that are listening and want to sit there and go, I want to fix things for myself. I want to have more peace. I
Mhm.
want to be a better leader. Where do you think people should start with trying to find their next step?
Um, Pause for a while. That's
Right.
the most important thing. Whereas we're living in such a rushed society. I'm not saying that things are going faster than ever, and so maybe they are, but that's kind of a human truth for like 5,000 years already. Is that where we're thinking everything is going faster and faster? But we live in a rushed life. We don't take any time to reflect. Maybe a
Yeah.
little sidestep here. This is what I because I've been here as well, and then I wrote a couple of years ago. I wrote a book called No More Bananas,
Mm,
where it refers to don't go bananas, and the subtitle is maybe more revealing. Is how to keep your cool in the collective madness. And for me, and that's the way I work, I write things down, and if it's interesting enough, I turn it into a book. But that was literally my self help moment, or a little bit more than a moment, a couple of months. I needed to kind of slow down, not
mm,
switch off, but kind of calm, relax, kind of recalibrate. And that has become this book with kind of 9 steps and 45 tips and tricks and remedies to do that. Like, how do you kind of, yeah, keep your cool in a collective madness? And I think that's the starting point. Is kind of reserve time for yourself to reflect on what you're doing. Kind of and some these are very, some of them are very simple things, like switch off some notifications from your phone, or
right.
give yourself a restricted mobile time per day, or for social media, or just take 5-minute breaks 3 times a day. That kind of stuff. That's the awareness part. I think that's the
Hmm.
starting point, because we live so much in kind of automatic mode, where we
Yeah.
just do what we're doing every day, where we do what we're supposed to do, where we buy what we're supposed to buy, where we perform as we are supposed to perform. Um, well, and if we listen to ourselves, reflect on ourselves, and think about, am I actually doing okay? Do I like this? That's the starting point. I think when that awareness is there, from there on you can achieve great things. But that little, starting with a little bit time for yourself and reflective time, I think that's the one thing where you would need to start.
I love that. Well, I want to ask you a question. Where can people go to find out more about you and what you do?
Yes, one thing, if you spell my name correctly, whatever you do, you'll find me. There's just one Jeroen Kraaijenbrink that's spelled like this. Um, Probably three places to go. One is my website, which is jeroenkraaijenbrink.com, first name, last name.com. LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you want to follow me, just search my name and you'll see the picture and you'll recognize me. And on Amazon, if you want to buy my books, there's, I think, 6 of them right now. And again, if you just search my name, you'll find my books, and you can buy them, including the No More Bananas and the strategy books. That's the little promo part, but that's how you find me. Just type my name wherever, and you'll learn a lot about what I do.